All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look at some PLC structures that can support the work that Missy just started talking about with the core expectations for quality instruction. So what can you do in PLCs to really support that work? All right, so as you're looking at this document, what you're going to see is that there are two chunks. The first chunk at the very top, those are suggested best practices for substantive work around quality instruction. The bottom chunk is a scenario for a school that may or may not be similar to some of your needs. And what it includes is an example of a recursive PLC structure that you could use to make sure that this work remains a focus in your building throughout the whole school year. Okay? As I mentioned, this is a very dense document. Okay? There's a whole lot of information here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a dual read on this. So the first time I have you read through this, I'm going to give you about 3 minutes. And what I would like for you to do is just underline or circle anything that is written on there that maybe you're unsure of, any documents that are referenced that you're like, ooh, to really understand this, I think I need to go look at what this document is. So 3 minutes individually, if you would. Read this and mark for those areas. Any questions? Many of the things you may have marked are linked to other documents, okay? So what I would like to do is give you about 4 minutes to explore any of those areas. So anything that you looked at that has a link to it, go in and look at that to help lend clarity to your understanding. If there's anything that you marked that isn't a link, please catch one of us as we're circulating to answer any questions that you have. So 4 minutes for you to go ahead and explore the links on this page to lend clarity. One of the things, and this was asked about by Turkeyfoot as well, those quick learning checks and the high cognitive demand tasks, you'll see that language consistent from bubble 1 where we start talking about the task to bubble 2 where we're talking about students interacting and teachers eliciting a response from all students. You'll see that consistent. So sometimes your quick learning checks are the things that you're really checking readiness for what you're really going to dive into that day. And then the high cognitive demand task, we want to make sure that all classes are getting to something that is really high level thinking every day. And we know that you're going to get more familiar as you're working with your teachers. So this is kind of an overview, but we'll keep digging into this. All right, so I promised you a dual read, so now you get your second time. And reading through, I want you to annotate your text for anything that you would like to duplicate in your building. So it might be specific parts of PLCs. It might be specific parts of the admin team follow-up. It may be some of the suggested best practices up above. Okay, so I just wanted you to take some time to look at what you'd like to replicate in your building. You might consider what you already have in place, how you may need to tweak that, if there's anything that you'd like to do to change that or to add to. Actually, you're going to look over the whole document again. And you're going to mark anywhere on the document, thank you for asking, anywhere on the document, anything that you see that you would like to replicate in your building, that you look at and you're like, ooh, that really gets at what my building needs. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, it sounds like a lot of people are starting this already, but go ahead and just talk to your school team about what items you see on there that you would like to replicate. Remember, our goal is to think about a recursive PLC process to be able to focus on quality instruction in every classroom every day. So as you look, try and note which things on here, which items did you see that you would really like to replicate in your building. So you can go ahead and talk as your table group, and I'll give you about 3 or 4 minutes before we move to our next part. Okay, so now that you've had some time to talk in your school teams, what we want to do now is move to a little more formal process so that all of your thinking right now isn't lost when you leave this room. And so Shauna's going to go ahead and introduce that.
So back to the reflection sheet. We really are asking for you to commit to capturing your thoughts, your plans, your questions in this reflection sheet, because we know you're hearing so much today and your mind's thinking of a lot of things that you want to do, and we don't want to lose that. So if you can go back to this reflection sheet, you can see for each piece that we're talking about today, with this one being quality instruction, what do you have in place? What are your needs? What assistance, resources do you need? And also that would be a great column to capture your questions. And then what is your plan for next steps? And just a reminder, one person in your school team should have shared that with everybody in your team so you can all capture this together collaboratively. And then remember to share it with Martha, Melina, and myself so that we also can hear your thinking and know your questions and your needs. I failed to mention at the beginning, I'm sure you all have figured that out, that Chris Kendall is filming this session today, and that was intentional because we know that each of you have devoted 6 hours of PD time in your PD plan. That's not to mention all the job embedded. So this will be available if you would like to use any clip or part of this as you're planning and thinking about how you're rolling this out with your teachers through PD. So this will be available for use. So again, this is through the lens of quality instruction. Capture your thoughts here. We'll give you 5 minutes, 6 minutes. As you're thinking through each one of these pillars, quality instruction, data, behavior, tiered interventions, I would also process and build into your conversation, what have we already done in terms of working with our staff on this? Because that's really going to help you drive your PD. How much did we take back during this past school year, job embedded or standalone PD? Some of you may have already, you've got this recursive PLC process around quality instruction. So I would keep that as a lens, not only for what your plans are for next year, but remember you have 6 hours of intentional PD around this.